Okay, we're live. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 157, the Security Podcast on the In30 Network. My name is Chaim. We have Tom here, and I want to start off with a story that happened to me and how I messed up and how this could happen to you. Tom heard the story. So, is this a really rookie mistake, or is this a thing that we should caution our listeners for?
Well, you see, so we should absolutely caution people because there might be people who just don't know. But luckily, the default behavior has been changed, and you got bit by just running with the defaults. And it turns out that defaults, in many cases, are very, very insecure. So, yeah, you probably should have changed those. At the very least, you should have changed the password, but we'll get into it.
So the story goes, I'm doing my thing. It's before DEF CON. I'm downloading my Linux. I'm torrenting some Linux distributions. Actually, that's a legit thing. I was actually
Linux
doing that.
I'm sure.
I was actually downloading Raspbian to make my VPN for DEF CON.
I didn't know Game of Thrones had a Linux distribution.
Well, apparently they're all over the internets now, because they must have had default passwords there as well. But so I'm downloading actual Linux distributions, and I get an email from Verizon from their abuse account, and I showed it to you, and you're like, "Yeah, everyone agreed, not that big of a deal." They were accessing port 22. Okay, port 22 is SSH. I got that, but okay, I have passwords on it. Like, what's the big deal? So I think nothing of it, and then I'm trying to log into my garage door app because I have the garage door that you can tell if it's open, and I can't log in. I'm like, okay, maybe something's wrong at resets. Nothing. Then I go to Monoprice. By the way, Monoprice is awesome for cables and things like that, and I can't log in. I'm like, I just ordered something. And at the same time, I got another abuse email from Verizon. I'm like, what's going on? So I wait a couple days. I start looking. I start playing with the logs. And I now try to log into my VPN. So Monday, I try logging into my VPN from here, my Raspberry Pi, and it's not working. So I get rid of the GUI interface because I have it boot into GUI. I don't know why, but I just set that up that way. And it's pinging a whole lot of IPs, like just a whole bunch. I think I counted probably 100 IPs. I didn't know anything of it, and it's failing. So I'm like, why is it doing that? So I reformat it, and then I look at my router. Port 22 is open for SSH, so I can access it remotely, and I had default credentials. And the first thing you learn, default credentials. And I go, I never turned that off because, I mean, everyone will never admit to it, but on their internal network, basically everything has default credentials for things like the Raspberry Pi that you log into once a year, once every 6 months, just to reboot it. Am I right about that?
I mean, I'm definitely an edge case here, but all of my stuff is managed through Ansible and other automation frameworks. So all of my stuff has got different keys and different passwords, and I've got a password manager. And
well,
I'm totally weird in this sense. Most everyone else, at least the people that I know, are running default creds, but they're not hanging it off the internet.
Well, so like the Raspberry Pi, I'm connecting. I don't log into ever. I mean, the VPN works, and the only time I really have to change is if I'm trying something new. And so, okay, what's the password to the Raspberry Pi? I mean, it's like I'm never going to remember. No, it's the user is Pi and the password's Raspberry.
Ah, that's right.
All right. So, by the way, the username is Pi and the password's Raspberry. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, I mean, I'm only using it's not nobody's connecting to it. And who's really going to scan all the IPs and port 22? So all the IPs and all 65,535 ports. And apparently they have bots to do that.
Oh, yes. So the internet is alive and well with bot traffic. They will scan everything all day long, as many IPs as they can get a hold of, looking for any devices with default credentials just to do the type of thing you're describing here.
And this was just because I was just trying to figure it out. I was pinging everything. I did trace routes. I did everything to try and figure it out. It was resolving. but it just wasn't coming back. So I figured, but it's only on that one website. So I called Verizon and I said, can I get another IP? And they're like, okay. So this process, if you're on Verizon Fios, what you have to do is you have to turn your router off for about half an hour, so it does the re-handshake. They sometimes can do it for you. In this case, he did, and it did work. And immediately, everything worked. In the meantime, I formatted my Raspberry Pi. I took down all my open ports, and we're good to go at this point. Whoever the sucker is that gets the old IP, though, is not.
So what you were encountering is it looks like some websites weren't very happy with your automatic bot activity there.
Probably, well, just one that I know of, or two.
But this happens a lot, and people hang stuff off the internet like this. And most of the time, it's not a Raspberry Pi, because that's a pretty technical gadget, right? Not everyone goes out and says, "Oh, I want a tiny $30 computer. That sounds great." Most of the time, it's, I just want to turn off my lights with my phone, or I would like to open the garage door with an app. It's something very normal like that. But those devices also have root credentials, and a lot of times, sometimes they've got SSH open, sometimes you're using UPnP, so you don't even have to open ports. They just put themselves out there on the internet. So in the case of Raspbian, the most well-known distribution of Linux for the Raspberry Pi, in their recent versions, it actually comes with SSH disabled. You have to go through a menu to turn it on, or use a standard Linux command line command to go ahead and enable that service. Mostly because of this reason, because people would hang Pis off the internet with default creds, and bots scan for those now.
And they do tell you, they say the first thing when you log in, your password is the default password. Would you like to change it? And another problem that I had when building the VPN server, at least on the OpenVPN, whatever version I was on, it doesn't like IPv6 for the Raspberry Pi and their OpenSSL OpenVPN package. They do not like IPv6. So it doesn't like the loopback inside your own network, unless I'm completely doing this wrong, which probably I am. So I go out to LTE, and on T-Mobile is awesome and gives you an IPv6 address. So it wasn't working there. So now I'm like, how do I solve this? And so this is probably it's one of the reasons why I opened the ports, so I can test it from different areas to see if it was working. And unfortunately, that's how you get burned.
So for SSH in particular, if anyone listening is going to stand up a Raspberry Pi or a Linux system, changing default passwords, that's a great first step, but passwords are actually kind of bad. You don't have to use passwords, and it's actually way lazier to use keys instead. So you make a key pair, and you run a command, SSH copy ID and your username, and you tell it to go to the Pi. And what it does, it puts your public key on the Raspberry Pi as that user. And then when you go to log in from that machine that's holding the key file, the private key, it does some cool like challenge response, key signing, authentication stuff. It's magic public key cryptography. And it just logs you right in. No passwords, no nothing. The downside to that is anyone who gets the key now can log in without any with full authentication and no password. But the upside is you can actually add a password to your private key file. So you need to unlock your key to use it, which is fantastic. It's like crazy secure. But even if you don't have a password, it's still really, really lazy and really, really secure, because it's just that key that can unlock the device and nothing else. So at that point, turn off password authentication, allow keys only, and that will go a long, long way to protect the front door of your Linux system.
Now we're going to ask Tom, what's the command to show your .ssh folder using a Mac?
Oh, well, it's going to be the same thing on Linux. So if you want to see just the contents of the folder, ls ~/.ssh.
Oh, good. I was going to say, do you know the GUI command to show the path?
Oh, I think it's Command G to go to a folder, and then you just say .ssh.
So, because it's hidden, it's hard to. because people like GUI stuff. It's hard because you have to show the file. So you have to go on the internet, look up how to search to show hidden files, which makes you open the command line, which at that point you already been done, and go from there.
Seriously, like SSH keys are the simplest thing to set up and the simplest thing to use. And it's like a password manager. Once you get it set up once, it makes you so incredibly lazy. When you encounter password systems, you're like, oh, I have to type things now. You can even like delve further. So I use an SSH agent to manage my keys with a short timeout. So I can just whitelist my key files and they automatically get locked up after a certain period of time. Like SSH is awesome. It does a whole bunch of stuff for you. It's a big rabbit hole. You could totally get into it. But just know passwords are terrible and keys are awesome.
Yes, and that's another reason, which we'll get into in a future episode, why I'm upgrading my network attached storage, because it doesn't have that, and it does allow you command line interface, and I would like to have authentication via SSH key only, because to be honest, I don't really care who gets into my Raspberry Pi, like at all, unless you're going to create a bot that pings IP addresses randomly. Now, I only figured out because it goes to a website that I like to go to a lot. But if they were going to some random website, I would have never known.
You could have been blasting someone off the net without even knowing. Yeah. Which brings us to our next anecdote. So when I was testing my automation and trying to get my Ansible playbooks all set up, make sure that I'm making or using the right NTP settings, and NTP is a service that basically synchronizes the time on your computer with a whole bank of time servers out there that keep accurate time, because time's really important in computers, as it turns out. So the bad thing is NTP is a super old, really crufty protocol, which means it's been hammered on a lot, and there's some vulnerabilities with it. So if you leave a wide open NTP config file, that means someone can say, oh, hey, Bob's super awesome website over here just totally asked for the time. And then my computer would go, oh, cool. Hey, Bob, here's the time, which doesn't really hurt too many people unless you can amplify that traffic and then grab all of the open NTP servers on the internet and then have them all tell Bob's website the time. And all of a sudden, you are blasting down Bob's website with basically the current time. Or time synchronization messages. It's OpenNTP is one of the easiest ways to add yourself to a botnet unwittingly. And unfortunately, in the testing of my automation, when I got this one thing working, I totally forgot about it. I left it wide open until DigitalOcean sent me an email saying, hey, you might want to stop whatever it is you're doing. And I was like, oh no, I left NTP open. Oh, I'm such an idiot, because my machine was used as part of a botnet. So that was not my proudest moment, but we've all done it. We've all run with open defaults before, and we've all kind of paid the price for it.
So it's one of those, and this is the problem with UPnP, is that you're setting something up, and you're saying, I want to get all my devices on. Let me just keep this wide open to make sure the Nintendo Wii, the Roku box, the Fire Stick, the doorknobs, the doorbells, the cameras, everything connects to it. And then I'll lock it down. So you get everything locked down, and then you see something shiny, or you see a squirrel in the yard, and now you forget. Something happens, you completely forget about it, and you go upon your business, and you forget to close it. And that's usually what happens. So what people started doing is they started to put, let's say, the passwords on the side, or they tell you you're going to have to create the password first. I think XP, the new Windows does that. Create a password for your user first, because you know what? You're not going to change it.
Yeah. And programmers are pretty guilty of this. I've run into this problem myself, where, you're trying to get a service to work, like programmers and sysadmins are trying to get this thing to work, and it's just not working. So you're like, okay, I'm going to start removing every possible barrier to getting this thing to work, and then I'll work backwards to figure out exactly what broke it. So you turn off the local system firewall, and then you turn off other firewalls, and then you turn off the web application firewall, and then you turn off IDS, and then you basically turn off all these security things. You're like, oh wow, look, it works. oh, wait, there's this bug here on this thing, and I forgot to fix that. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and fix this website or service bug. And then you completely forget to turn all your security stuff back on. It happens all the time. It's extremely common. We should try to be vigilant. We should try not to do that, but it is really common. So if you've done this, I mean, we've all been there.
Okay. Well, so the moral of the story is try not to do not run with default credentials, and definitely don't open up open ports to the internet unless you absolutely know what you're doing and you know you're going to shut them down and everything else. Just before you just see that shiny squirrel or whatever it is, make sure everything is closed back up nice and tight. Next story. So CrashPlan decided to get rid of their business, their personal service. So CrashPlan is one of those online systems. You pay them X number of dollars a month, $100 a year type thing, and they back up your entire hard drive. So in case of a crash, you have it on their cloud and you can just download it. Well, they got rid of the personal plan and they went to the business plan, which apparently is a lot more money. And that's causing the internet to go up in arms about a whole lot of different things. I don't know the actual costs, but I know that the new business plan is $10 a month per device.
I think, if I remember correctly, the family plan, which was up to 10 devices, was like $150 a year, I think. And the business plan, I believe, is $10 per user per month, which is a huge increase. I get it. I get that a bunch of people were signing up for home and they shouldn't have been because they're businesses or whatever. I get that CrashPlan totally has the right and obligation to their owners to make money. But as a user of this, as a person who's been signed up for a couple of years now, this is annoying. This hurts because now I've got to re-architect my backup strategy because you need 3-2-1. You need 3 copies in on two different forms of media or backup type, and one in a separate location. Like this hurts. And it actually was a huge topic in our WhatsApp group, which you should totally join. Everyone's talking about this and trying to figure out where they're going to move. I've got a few ideas that I'm going to try. I don't know if they're going to be more or less expensive. That's why I've got to trial it out. But we'll see. We'll see where it ends up.
I mean, CrashPlan is telling everyone to go to Carbonite. Now, here's the thing. I don't have any of this. I have a slightly different, less good backup strategy. But they're saying move to Carbonite. And I think the problem with Carbonite was the GUI was terrible.
Well, the GUI's terrible on all of them, but you only need the GUI if you're first setting up the backup or restoring. I've used Carbonite back in the day. I put a family member's computer on it years and years and years ago, and they were okay. They were fine. I don't really have any real complaints about them other than at the time they didn't have a Linux client, so I went to CrashPlan, who did. I don't know if that's still the case, but if CrashPlan has got a Linux client, or not CrashPlan, if Carbonite has a Linux client, I might move there. There's Backblaze, there's Mozy, there's a bunch of different services that do this sort of thing, or you can try to roll your own with one of the many cloud providers out there. I
mean, so you do something like that. What I do is I look at what I have, and to be honest, I don't have that much. I have a lot of personal documents. I have a lot of music, and I have a lot of photos. The movies I can get again because I legally buy my movies, so I can re-download them in some way or re-rip them from the DVDs that I have. So the music, I threw everything up in Google Music, and for photos, I use Google Photos, and then I do have them backed up in other places. So yes, I should have some online backup. But if you take the music and the music and the photos out of it, then I'm left with a whole bunch of just documents. And then to buy, either my wife pays for Dropbox, I pay for Google Drive, to throw stuff in there. It's not the most convenient to have all your files in all these different places, but you know what? They're there. And so it's a cheaper way to do all this, but it requires you to do a lot more work rather than just say, here it is, back up the whole drive.
Yeah, there are definitely ways to kind of patchwork yourself up a backup strategy. And if you don't care about anything on your local machine and you have it all online, more power to you. The only thing you have to worry about at that point is, what if your account gets banned? What if it gets hacked? What if the cloud provider goes out of business? What if there's a whole lot of ways your data in the cloud can vanish. So,
well, we basically have that now with CrashPlan. You have until whatever next month to figure out something. Otherwise, you're not going away. They're just moving you automatically at $10 a month per device.
Yeah. So we'll have to see. This hit our WhatsApp group pretty hard because a lot of us were really happy with Carbonite's price point and their service. I mean, the client was rough. It's not perfect by any means, but it was good enough. And now we've got to figure out how to recreate that magic.
And yeah, so I was looking, what did we say? We said 1.5 TB. I have about 1.5 TB on S3 to throw it all up onto S3, which is probably the cheapest if you're going to roll your own. What did we say it was? It was like 16. It wasn't that much. It was like $16 a month.
Just as a disclaimer, I do work for AWS. So if you wanted to use Amazon's S3, that's awesome. And I use S3 every day and I love it. But also they kind of pay my rent and put food on my table. So, disclaimer.
So 1.5 terabytes is about what I have on my NAS, is about $18.75 a month. Which, if you think about it, that's not terrible, but it's not cheap either.
Yeah, I'm trying to work out the math on whether or not S3 or going to CrashPlan's per device model would be better for me, because I don't have a ton of data, but it's so close to that like $20 a month estimation that I'm gonna have to play with it and see where I end up.
So if you're looking at Google Drive, and Google Drive, I don't know if we talked about this, had this new feature that they'll back up your entire computer. You still got to pay for the space, but it'll back up your entire computer. 1 terabyte is $10 a month.
Which is really cheap.
Yeah. And again, if you don't need a local, I don't want to say that if you don't need a local backup, you don't need to have one, because that's the wrong advice. But look at the big files on your computer. What are they? If they're applications that you have the CD for, or they're on Steam or whatever they are, maybe you don't need the JPEGs and the RAWs of all your pictures. I mean, think about what you're putting on there. If you can get it to 1 terabyte for $10 a month, 120 a year, and they probably have a yearly plan, you're looking at $100 a year.
Especially like if regarding Steam, do not back up your Steam library. Like, back up your save games, maybe back up your mods if they were hard to find and not on Workshop, but don't back up your Steam apps folder. That's a whole lot of space for nothing. You can just double click again and get your games back. So again,
you think about what you actually need to back up, and if it's not that important, maybe you shouldn't have the online backup. But then again, remember, backing up has to be automated. You have to make sure this is automated. So what we do is, anytime I create a file, it goes directly into Google Drive or into Dropbox, so I know it's there, or it gets put into the network server that's automatically going to have that backup as well, and you go from there. But give it a week or two. Probably by the time this hits live, there'll be some more solutions and hopefully something good.
Yeah, we will definitely keep you aware of what we figure out and what we pick. And if you wanted to discuss it with us, hit our WhatsApp group, grab us on Twitter or email, or however, drop a comment on YouTube or something, and we will totally get you in the group. We do not publish that link because it gets spammy, and it gets spammy real quick.
So, and let's go on our last story we have. Well, we have two actual stories. We'll do one real quick. A door lock manufacturer has goofed up. They pushed out some firmware, and it bricked, like, I want to say 500,000 door locks. They caught it, and they're working on it, but the pin pad was definitely dead, and you couldn't use the app or whatever it is. You had to go back to the key, and it just goes to show you got to be that IoT is still new. So as much as I talk about it and how much I love it, you still have to worry about the security. And what happens if they just randomly decide to brick your door lock, and what that means.
Now, you see, I don't think their PR department really spun this story the proper way, because what they accidentally did is they accidentally made a whole bunch of doors really, really secure.
Yeah.
No one is getting in.
I mean, unless you have the key, but still.
Right, right.
Yeah. But again, I know a lot of people who just throw away the key or keep the key in a drawer, just use the pin pad. So that's a really dumb idea, because the pin pad is battery power. If you don't change the battery, which, by the way, now is another battery you have to change, what are you going to do?
Yeah, I think we're going to see a whole lot of IoT once we get this wireless power thing filled out. Like, I'm really looking forward to that.
So, and again, it goes to show that these are just off-branded. A lot of these IoT products, if you didn't, even the companies you did here, some company in China is making them, and they're slapping the Samsung logo or the Kodak logo. Remember Polaroid? Polaroid's now in the business of just slapping names on it to have that brand name affiliation with it. So just be careful when you're buying things. Make sure, read about it, read what they've done, and stick to the names that you know. That's probably your best bet.
I would agree.
And the last thing is TunnelBear went through a VPN audit. So before we start about what they said, and it was good, anytime you see an article that says the 10 best VPNs, stay far, far away from them. If they're mentioning VPNs, look at the links. A lot of them are affiliate links. And if they're affiliate links, they're going to choose theirs over something else's. So it may not be the best. But I've been seeing a lot of articles, and maybe because Google now knows I talk about VPNs a lot, about which one you should choose. And all of them have affiliate links associated with them or some way that the website monetizes. The best ones are the companies or the articles that say, this is what you should look for and how to look for it in it. Because a lot of them are coming back. Private internet access they just goofed up and basically had no security on it, even though they were touting it. And there's one that people were citing as being really good. So TunnelBear said, you know what, we're going to have our audit. We're going to pay somebody to do it. And we put a link in the show notes. Read about it. Basically, they did 2 audits. They did one, found out the problems, they fixed it, and then they did another audit to get that golden seal of approval. So check out their audit. And if you need a commercial VPN client, read about what they say and what to look for, and then maybe choose them or roll your own or figure out something else.
Yeah, I'm going to have to look at TunnelBear again, because I've got NordVPN right now. I don't have a huge need for a VPN at the moment, but when it comes time to renew, I might go that way, because I don't think Nord has paid for a public audit. At the very least, they haven't made a big deal about it. And that TunnelBear not only got an audit, but fixed their issues really quickly, got another audit, and then published it. Like, that's really cool. That's a huge show of faith in your technology and in the people running your business. Like, that's enough to make me a customer.
So it says try TunnelBear free. And I don't think it's a free service. And again, if you see anything free, run away, because that's what happened. Private internet access had a free tier, and what they were doing is just injecting ads.
Yeah, like free trial is okay. So if they say, hey, you get like a couple weeks or a month, and then you got to pay $5 a month or whatever, that's fine. That's fine. That's a business saying, try it before you buy it. But if it's, hey, free VPN service, free tier security, totally free antivirus, we promise, that you should not trust that. There's something shady going on there, or those people are far, far too altruistic.
So it looks like it doesn't have a router client, which was one of my issues. I would like a whole house system.
So as long as your router supports the OpenVPN protocol, and that's one of the protocols your VPN provider makes available to you, then you can bolt OpenVPN on top of just about everything. I know on pfSense and OpenSense, OpenVPN is kind of one of their core supported VPN protocols. So you just throw in your details, put in your server, username and password, all this stuff. and you're good to go. You're off to the races. Some of the better VPN providers will actually have setup steps for routers or pfSense, which is wonderful and really handy.
So Tunnel Bear is located in Canada. It doesn't get the seal of approval from privacytools.io where Nord did. But again, we're not telling you. We said that they went through an audit and they went through everything that they said. So I put the link there. You can read it. You can go from there and make your decision. So I don't want to say that they're better than anybody else. I want you to read the audit and make your own decision. So
yeah, I maintain that, any security tool that's gone the length to have an audit from a respected firm and then make it public, that's a pretty strong show of faith.
So and do it again. Basically, get audited again after the fact. So
it doesn't mean anything to get an audit and the auditors go, "Oh, wow, these are some terrible problems." And you go, I guess that's fine. And you just sit there, right? It's not really the purpose behind the audit.
So, okay. With that, we're over our time. So we will leave you go until next week. And we do have, so we were going to record last week, just FYI, and life got in the way. So we're sorry, but life happens. So we'll hopefully see everyone next week and we'll have a good time. Bye.
See you, everyone.